Welcome to Rhino Bet's Cheltenham Festival preview. We're on to day 2. My name is Tracey. I'm being joined by Henry, Brooke, Olly Murphy, Mark Boylan and Chris Lucky Loader to preview the best of the action as well as anything else then on day 2. Now, lads, we're going to begin with the Queen Mother Champion Chase and, of course, El Fabiolo versus John Bon, round 3. So El Fabiolo has, of course, shortened up after John Bon blotted his copybook to an extent last time out, but Mark, are people being harsh upon that, or do you think that this price about El Fab is fair enough?
I actually think John Bon, in the circumstances, was a hell of a run last time. I know it's probably maybe an overly optimistic view, but like he tried to take that fence home with him, and then he goes from turning in 3 lengths down to leading at the second last, and he gets collared late on. Like another horse would have pulled up after the mistake. He's lucky not to have broken his pelvis or something, the shape he made. I thought it was a fair effort in the circumstances. And I think as well, sometimes you find that when grade ones, personally anyway, the theory I'd have is when you see grade ones or big races delayed after weather reasons or whatever it may be, you can get the odd strange results. You know, sometimes those horses are being trained for a day and then you have to set that day back a week, 10 days, whatever it may be. We saw that Allers and Ace reading Tommy Wrong, bit of an upset that was delayed. You see it from time to time. And I just thought Nicky Henderson, who has been on the record as saying that John Bon can be a tricky customer at times. He can be hard on himself. He said that week just trying to kill it between what should have been Ascot and what was Cheltenham was very, very tricky. So like I thought in the circumstance he should have won. He should have won well. If he did, would he be 3-1 right now? No, I think he'd be a fair bit shorter. So I think, you know, if you are the forgiving nature, John Bon, I would be happy to give him a second chance. It was to my peril last year in the Arkle that I did because El Fabiolo kicked him out of the way. But I don't know, the Mullins camp are really, really strong in El Fabiolo. I kind of made the suggestion at a few preview nights and it was kind of scoffed that kind of, you know, just won't beat El Fabiolo. But I'm not giving up on this horse. And I think, you know, shape of the race as well, there's going to be very little margin for error. I know maybe a horse has made a mistake last time. You can point that at John Bon, but El Fabiolo he's not afraid to hit one as well. So at a price, you know, I think he is the value play, John Bon, but it wouldn't be one of his stronger views of the week, Kate.
No, every horse has its price though, and 3-1 with Rhino Bet currently for John Bon. It is, the carrot is being dangled for you just enough, isn't it? So I can see that. Now, Henry, to go to you, between these 2 horses, so you've got El Fabiolo, who, as Mark just said, he can bust a fence when he wants to, but it doesn't really seem to stop him all that much. Or you've got John Bon, who can be a bit quirky beforehand, but is generally pretty professional in a race, barring that mistake last time out, which probably cost him the race. Which one would you rather ride?
Oh, God, it's a tough one, Kate, isn't it? Obviously, well, I'd definitely go for El Fabiolo. He's 2-1 on, so that's how I would look at it like that. But going back to John Bon, I've never really been a big John Bon fan. Like, I always just kind of thought for the first couple of parts of his career, I was like, he's just all hype. And now I'm actually a big fan of him. And like Mark said, I couldn't believe that he got to the position that he got to. I've been I took a fence out, landed at the back of it. He did well to find his feet and then to get himself back into the race then. You know, I think that was I thought it was a very impressive run to do that round Cheltenham. I think he's value at 3-1 in this.
Yeah, again then. So you've done a full 180 then to come back around, or full 360. I can't do the maths quick enough. It's late in the evening. Come back around then to John Bon though. So 2 votes for him at 3-1.
That was the first mistake I've ever seen John Bon make.
Yeah, ever. Like you say, but that's the thing though. And Ollie, to you, like John Bon's always exemplary in an actual race. You might give it all the bravado beforehand in the preliminary, but in a race, you never saw him making a mistake over his fences, but he didn't have to make one last time. So does that leave him a bit vulnerable now, or do you think that that's easily forgivable?
I think it's very forgivable. I'm sure he's been very good to jump through his career thus far, and I agree with Henry. He's been a horse that everyone's loved to knock since day one, you know, and I actually don't know why that is, to be honest. He obviously gets a bit warm beforehand, but Christ, he hasn't done a lot wrong through his career. Will he beat El Fabiolo? I don't think he will, but he's a strong stayer, and Edwardson will pop out and go right with Gallop. I certainly think he can make a race of it. But listen, at the prices, El Fabiolo 2's on. Will I be backing him? No, I'd rather watch the race. But yeah, I certainly think it'll be a horse race. I don't think it'll be a procession, but I think from a betting perspective, I'll be sitting this one out.
We'll allow you that one for sure. It is going to be a spectacle, though, isn't it? And a really, really intriguing clash. Now, Chris, we've already done 1 day preview, and I just have a funny suspicion, just this funny feeling, you're going to try and take on El Fabiolo.
I probably will, but I do think he'll probably win if he doesn't make a big mistake. I do think one day he will make a mistake that will give others a little bit of hope, and maybe it could be the Champion Chase this year. Maybe it could be. The thing I've gone to John Bon is, do you remember last year when he nearly got beaten by Calico in that 2-runner race at Warwick? Does he just like to throw in a stinker or something before Cheltenham?
It's always that time of year, yeah.
Yeah, he just wanted to get it out of his system before Cheltenham, but yeah, I think the key to him is, I've mentioned it when we were talking about Jericho de Repene on our day 1 preview, is Nico de Boinville. I just think he knows him inside out, all his little quirks, all his little habits. And I'm not saying James Byrne did anything really wrong last time out in the Clarence House Chase, but I think when you've got a jockey that knows a horse like John Bon inside out, just having him on might make even a few % difference. And I think if we see him as he performed in the Slur Chase back in the November meeting, I think he can beat El Fabiolo. I think he can really put his jumping to the test, and I just think it's what they're going to do with him. Are they going to ride him forward like they did in the Slur Chase? Now, there wasn't much pace on when he ran in the Slur Chase, but he's going to have the likes of Edwardstone maybe taking him on for the lead. Elixir de Nuts as well is another horse that likes to go forward. I'm not sure if he's going to have a crack here. Maybe don't underestimate him. He's a big old price there, but we've seen horses over the years. I remember Special Tiara, wasn't he a 10-year-old when he won this? So age is no barrier. So it could be a bit of a weird race the way it could play out. I think there are a few rivals in here that they could win and you wouldn't be absolutely shocked, but at the same time El Fabiolo is the most likely winner of the race. It's a really hard one to assess. I think Edwardstone will run a massive race if they decide to go forward on him. I thought he was mustard at Newbury last day, didn't miss a beat, and if he's in the same kind of form, it's going to be an interesting race turning up the hill. I'm probably just going to sit on the fence for this one. I don't have a strong opinion either way who we take on El Fabiolo with, but I'll probably have something on the day to take him on with. But at the moment, I'm just happy to watch and see how the race, when the declarations come through, see how it all lines up.
Yeah, exactly, how the race then takes shape when we actually do have declarations then. But really intriguing insight from the lads there ahead of the Queen Mother Champion Chase. Now, we're stepping up in trip for the Brown Advisory, and we have a short price favourite at 5 to 6 with Rhino Bet currently. Back to file, because Willie Mullins has seemingly nailed his colours to the mast somewhat with this horse, in the hope that he is going to go for the 3-miler. But again, we just wait to see that. But he's a horse who has significantly shortened up, though, Mark. So back to file. I mean, he's such a likeable horse on the old, we've said it time and time again, the old Florida Pearl route, then of going bumpers straight over fences. He's a likeable horse, isn't he?
I think so. From word go, they've always loved him. From before he ran, the vibes were really strong about him, and he hasn't disappointed them a whole pile. Like, you look at last year in the Champion Bumper setting where he's gone in with limited experience, and he's second to Dream to Share, who's essentially a really, really smart flat horse probably. And that Champion Bumper, we've seen it all season long, 21 runners, 20 have come out in one races since. Hell of a run for a horse that doesn't necessarily even look like a bumper horse. First time up this season, gets beat by American Mike, but that's in a window. Same sort of time as Ballyburn gets beat. There's a lot of high-profile Willie horses that got turned over. It's funny, actually, Willie touched on something, I think around Christmas time. He said, my best 3 novices, he says, hurdles-wise, all got beaten first time up this season. I'm willing to give him a pass. It was still a grand run, but at Christmas, he was absolutely deadly. Really, really take the eye out of the back of your head. And I know it's very hard to assess probably what he achieved at the Dublin Racing Festival because it was a 2-runner race, but to go back to what I mentioned with Paul Town in that preview that I did during the week, he just said, I went a million on Gaelic Warrior, and I look across and I see this guy doing a half speed beside me, and he's gone in a few strides, something to that effect. I time figure wise, huge effort on the clock. I know Stay Away Faye is a smart horse. I think your hope, if you're going to turn it around with Stay Away Faye, is that it turns into a slog and you get to the bottom, maybe a back to file on soft ground. I think that's your only hope of beating him, because I think this guy is, for me, he's banker material. I think if you have multiples, I wouldn't be afraid to stick him in any of them. I think he's this could be a Gold Cup horse next season. I think this could be one of the biggest threats they have to the top Gold Cup horses next year.
Oh, bullish. We like that a lot then. That Factor File, the banker, you heard it here first then from Mark. 5 to 6 currently could well be a Gold Cup horse next year. So, Ollie, I mean, Mark's excited by him, but in terms of the Brown Advisory and how it's taken shape in your mind, where are you looking?
I certainly agree with Mark, and the only way he could get beat now is if Stairway Faye kind of got down and dirty with him at the top of the hill and kind of turned it into a real slog. He's obviously got more experience than him kind of down the line through his novice hurdle career as well. But yeah, from a trainer's point of view, it's a ballsy thing for Willie to do now, kind of skip his novice hurdle career and go jumping fences straight away. But when you're as good as that, man, you can do things like this and take a risk. And yeah, I was impressed with this lad when he won a beginner's chase, but he blew me away the last day. He beat Gaelic Warrior, albeit Gaelic Warrior probably underperformed. But yeah, he looks very, very good. Again, the Brits have got a pretty ordinary hand in this race again. And yeah, I agree. If you've multiples done up now and this lad was going in, he certainly looks like banking material now if he jumps around.
Yeah, if he jumps around then and Stay Away Faye potentially being the danger if it turns into a slog, says Mark and Ollie, both agreeing on that basis. Henry, can you see him getting beat in this?
No, pretty simple, Kate. No, I can't. Like Ollie just stated that I think Gaelic Warrior mostly did underperform the last day. But just the way Factor File he travelled through the race, and because he travelled so well, it's a massive advantage. If you get a novice, obviously, that's not travelling, isn't a strong traveller, it's obviously hard, but I think that Paul will be able to help. He's jumping out and support him every bit that he needs to do. He travels really well and he's very nimble on his feet, so I don't think it'll be a problem going straight into this.
Yeah, going straight into that, then he has looked to really just take to fences, Chris, like a duck to water. It's been no sort of issue for him whatsoever. But, I mean, there are smart horses in here, as we know. We know that a fair few who are quite prominent in the betting might just be going elsewhere then and for other targets. But, I mean, Factor File, it's just nice that we feel that we pretty much know where he's going to go at least.
Yeah, at least we know where he's going to go. But for me, I can't have him at the prices, at even money. I think he's ridiculously short, and I think there shouldn't be so much between him and Stay Away Faye at least. I think the market's been quite disrespectful to Stay Away Faye. He's still got to go nearly another half mile. How do we know he's going to stay? To me, he's another speed horse that's probably would be more effective if he ran in the Turners. Now, he is a point-to-point winner, and he could stay in open company, but I mean, Stay Away Faye, I thought, ran a cracker in the Cotswolds Chase against top-level experienced chasers. And he also, as well, had to give away £2 to the winner, Capodanno, that day. And I like the way how he rode up the hill. Now, he might lack gears compared to Factor File, but at least we know he stays. He's probably the best 3-mile novice chaser in Britain. I think Grey Dawning would definitely be interesting if he ran it, but it looks like Dan Skelton's obviously, with the ground, going to probably send him towards the Turners. I just think that we know he's proven at the track. We know he stays. His form is pretty good, considering that was only the third run of his life over fences, taking on experienced chasers. I don't think Factor File would have fared much different if he'd ran in that race. You know, it's a different test running against experienced chasers that have been there at the highest level, and also as well giving away weight to a couple of the rivals. So I do think that I would have him more of around about a 9-4 shot. I think the 130, 72, he is in the place. I think that's a little bit too big. And for me, I think they shouldn't be so far apart in the betting. And also, as well, he's come from the Albert Bartlett, and Albert Bartlett horses have a good record in this race. I think it's since 2010, 2011. I think it's 6 or 7 horses have come from the Bartlett and won this race. So he's got the stamina, basically. Factor File, we don't know if he does.
Oh, the question mark then over the stamina again. We've had that with Lost Emails previously, now Factor Files. So the stamina to the fore then for Chris, and I'm happy to stick with Stay Away Faye in this. I was not quite expecting that, so at least we do have some difference of opinion then in the Brown Advisory. Now, the Baring Bingham, of course, with its new name, formerly known as the Ballymore for many a year, is the race that we're going to be focusing in on now. Now, of course, Ballyburn is also in here. However, as said earlier, the exchanges are leading us to believe that he's going to go for the Supreme, and Mystical Power is going to go here instead of Ballyburn then. So, Chris, I'll throw this one back to you to try and sort these on out. It's never the easiest race to sort out until we literally have declarations. But, I mean, did you have any strong opinions at this stage?
I wouldn't want to back Mystical Power. I think he's a terrible jumper. His class might be able to get him through, but for me, even though he is a 130 favourite, I couldn't have him at all. I think there's a few horses in here that are interesting. Think Il Atlantique could be interesting. I would be a bit concerned if something came upside him. I don't think he throws it all. I think he's just a high cruising horse that just doesn't find much off the bridle, and I don't tend to like those kind of horses. I thought Handstands was interesting for Ben Paulin. Beat Django Bay last time out at Huntington. And he's a horse that I think, again, there's a lot more improvements to come. I like the way how he battled as well to win. He travelled into the race very strongly, and I think that's what I like. I like a horse that when push comes to shove, you know that they're going to respond and find for pressure. I like that performance from him the last day. I think he's getting better with every run. He's undefeated, and again, it's that man, Ben Paulin. I just think he's absolutely mustard this season with his novice hurdlers, and he's a horse that I'd have on my radar. There is another horse as well, the Jukebox Man. I don't know if he's going to run here or in the Albert Bartlett. Probably the Albert Bartlett. I think he's another really good horse. Again, trained by Ben Paulin. Looks to have every interest there. He is entered in the race, kind of about the same price for the Albert Bartlett and the Baring Bingham. I just think he's a horse that I'd be keeping on side, but probably would find a few too good, but it's just a horse I like and be a horse I'd be keeping an eye on if he did run it.
Yeah, if he did, then go here. And again, but Handstands, at least, he's only got the one entry at Cheltenham, and it is in the Baring Bingham, and you're getting 12-1 about him then with Rhino Bet as well for a really smart horse, and another one of those Ben Pauling novice at hurdlers, but taking on the head of the market though. So, Ollie, I mean, the comment there about Mystical Power and the way he jumps, he's by Galileo, out of any power, bred to be impeccable, but we kind of know that Galileos, they don't necessarily make the greatest of jumpers. Maybe that's shown in him. So when you're getting about 3-1 about Mystical Power in a race like this, I mean, is that a bit short?
I think there's a lot of strength and depth in the race, to be honest. So I think they're kind of looking to find something for the head of the market, and obviously with his pedigree, obviously had a strange start to his career. He started off in a bumper in Ballinrobe in the middle of the summer, and then won a maiden hurdle on quickest ground in Galway, albeit he was very, very good the last day. Obviously got plenty of ability and a big engine. I just don't know what else you can take it on with. I'm not a fan of that Handstands. I know he won a graded race the last day. I thought a horse finished too close to him in third of Charlie Longsdon's. I just can't see him being competitive in a grade 1 at Cheltenham. I hope I'm wrong, so something can fly the British flag. But I thought it was a very, very tricky race. Whether there'll be something that could throw a spanner into the works, I don't know. But it was a race certainly I wasn't planning on having a bet in. I thought it was very, very tricky. I thought the English had a very poor hand in the race, and I don't know whether Mark be able to tell us if it was a poker one coming over from the other side of the Irish Sea. But I don't know what to take Mystical Power on, but I'm sure something there at double figure price. A lot of Irish horses that look like they're going to run the race that might be a bit of value, but I wouldn't know enough about.
Oh, the British with a poor Handstands, we could say, then, on the back of what Ollie's just said there anyway. The puns will come at you, as will more of the bullishness. As you can tell, as the lads get warmed up into this, the more and more bullish opinions that we're getting out of them. Not necessarily followed in by a bet, but they are really starting to disagree now. So, Mark, we always like this when everyone starts disagreeing. But Ollie was looking at the head of market, what to take him on with. I mean, is there much strength and depth to this, do you think?
I think there'll be a good field in it. I think there'll be plenty have a cut. I think the Ballyburn factor will sway people. Like, if Ballyburn runs here, he will win, I would think. But if he doesn't, it's obviously very open. Mystical Power, it's funny you mentioned the Galileo angle. I was only looking at this. I think on Racing Post ratings, he's only had 4 horses ever get higher than mid 140s over hurdles or fences. So I wouldn't let it stop him. He's definitely got more power from his mammy now than most of them horses have ever got a chance at. But I think in Atlantique, if he said to the Mullins camp which one of these is the flashier at home, which of them is shows more, I think in Atlantique could be the unanimous verdict there. I understand where the lads are coming from, maybe with where he's got beaten at 101, 1.64, 1.11, all in running. You never really like following one in like that, but I do think if they ride it a little bit differently, and if he is just kind of ridden to come home, I think if he said to me the likeliest winner, I think it's probably him. One at a price, maybe, Kate, if he did land here. He has the entry in the Supreme as well. The horse called Mr. Gift for Willie as well. He's a big price. He's 25 to 1. But he won the same maiden hurdle that Stateman won at Limerick prior to going on to win the county. And I thought he did it with a fair swagger for all that it was a mediocre race. Willie had given him a very, very favourable mention in the press tour since. And it just wouldn't shock me now. I know he has options either way, but if they did want to keep a few away from Ballyburn and the Supreme and maybe strengthen the hand here, I know he'd have a couple of lively ones, but Mystical Power and Antique, they're not exactly bomb-proof. I just thought Mr. Giff, if he ran at a price, I could see him in place to be at 25. He's a really nice horse.
Yeah, 25 to 1 then, a big price for a Willie Mullins horse in a race of this nature. Again, we're going to see where he goes, but make sure to keep him on your radar. Henry, what did you make of the race?
I agree with a lot of everybody said. I agree with Ollie. Handstands, he's just not been impressive enough to go win a Grade 1 at Cheltenham for me. It just he's very workmanlike, and obviously a little bit of step up in trip's going to favour him, but I just can't find anything to take on with a favourite looking at it. I just think Mystical Power is Mark's put some great things on point there. Facts about he's not had any horses rated over 140 whatever, so that's an interesting fact to come in there, but there's always a first, and I'm pretty sure this is it.
Okay, then that's the first. I'm pleased that Mark at least had the stats to back up my sort of just random throwaway line, really. So, Mark, thanks for the backup there. Right, there's Baring Bingham then, all the same. And again, we're going to throw it open to the guys for fancies for anywhere else. But, Ollie, I feel like we should go to you first because, of course, you do have the couple of entries then in the Coral Cup and the Grand Annual. So would you care to talk us through that pair, please?
Yeah, Rambo T could well run in the Coral Cup. He's got to improve on what he showed at Ascot in his last start. He did win a good handicap at Newbury over Christmas, but he has just got to step up to be competitive. If the ground was very soft, Gunsight Ridge would have a little chance in the Grand Annual. He's been plagued with problems. He's won a couple of good handicaps around Aintree, and he's certainly handicapped to be competitive in what looks obviously an extremely warm renewal and a race which is very hard to win. I know Gordon's very, very sweet on, I can't even pronounce his name, Safir. Is it, Mark?
Yes.
Safir, yeah.
We got it with him earlier in the week. He's been recently bought by Bective Stud for €330,000, who's part of the dispersal sale now, and I know they're very sweet on him. Away from my lad now, he's certainly one I'd be keeping an eye on.
Okay, so away from your own, appreciate that. Safira, it is it's one of those names, it just kind of blends into one, but yeah, part of the Caldwell Construction dispersal sale, now in the Bective Stud colours, of course. So there are a couple more races, of course, with the Coral Cup and the Grand Annual, the cross country chase, the Champion Bumper as well. So Henry, to you, any of those other races take your eye? I thought the cross country was fascinating this year, but what took your eye?
Obviously, straight away I've gone into the Coral Cup, and I like Langadang in here. Back off 141. He's had some terrible runs this season, but he started off the season this year 147. He's back down to 141. He does have to show that he's still the horse that he was, but Dan Skelton's going to work his magic and get him back. Then there's no reason he's done it once why he can't do it twice.
Yeah, 15 to 2 then Langadan. He comes good at this time of year, doesn't he? Does old Langa. Mark, anything else then?
I actually think the cross-country market, I think Delta Work is really, really good value there. Mel Indo, for me, for all that it was a nice start to life in that sphere last time, he's just not a horse I think you could really go with full faith. Like, he thinks he's won a Gold Cup. He's pulled up in a King George. He's pulled up in a Punchestown Gold Cup. He ran an absolute stinker in the Gold Cup itself last year. At Down Royal, he was lifeless this year. For a horse that just seems like this previous circuit, there's momentum and building with him. I just think he's let you down with a bang 3 or 4 times in his last 7 or 8 runs. So, I think Delta Work, Gordon Elliott's made no secret of the fact there's 2 days he's trained them for this year, and 2 days only. That's the cross country here and the Grand National at Aintree. Galvin, he gave a really, really good mention to the press morning we were at earlier in the week. and that did prick my ears. But he also left the caveat there that Galvin won't run if the ground is on the soft side. That he wait for entry, and it sounds like kind of from the local knowledge we're getting there that we're not going to get good ground by any stretch of the imagination on the cross country course for certain anyway, by the sounds of it. So I just think Manila Indo, for all, look at, I understand maybe Henry de Bromhead's horses last season, some of them you wouldn't have fancied necessarily going into it, and they all seem to go eyeballs out, ran savage, but geez, just Delta work, you know, he has so much more experience around here. You know, this is the day he's tuned for. No, I really, really like Delta work in the cross country.
Yeah, Delta work there. He looks an interesting price at 7-2 for the cross country. But Chris, I mean, cross country, was that taking your eye? Is that a race you ever like to really approach and have a bet in, or any of the other contests take your eye?
Yeah, I do like the cross country. I think Manila Indo have a chance. I thought it was a cracking run considering he was running in the handicap, and I actually think that's something they should introduce to the cross country itself. You know, I mean, I think it would make it much more competitive because I think there are a lot of good horses. I think there was a horse last year that ran in it called Frankie de Burle. I think he, for Peter Bone, you know, he ran an absolute cracker, and he was competing against horses that are rated 2 stone better than him. He did get tired in the end, but he ran an absolute grinder for a long way. And you think if that was a handicap and he was getting that 2 stone, he might have been able to throw his hat in the ring. So I would like to see it made into a handicap, but I don't really have any strong opinions on the race at this stage. A handicap I do have one for, I'll be watching an eye out, is in the Grand Annual. It's a horse of Sheila Lewis's called Strawfan Jack. He's not really done too much this season. His best run was when he ran at Ascot in the 1965 chase. He came second, and I thought he ran a cracker that day. At one point, I thought he was actually going to beat Pic Dory. You know, he was beaten 16 lengths. That was the race that Shishkin refused to run in. But he started off the season off a mark of 141, and he's now down to a mark of 133. He finished 4th in last year's Arkle, which I didn't think was a bad run. And this year he's been campaigned over 2.5 miles. If they drop him back down here to the 2-mile trip, a strongly run handicap, I could see him running well. He probably would want the ground not to be too soft. So I think he's about 33-1 in a few places. I think he's a horse that I'll be definitely having a bet on if he did get declared. So he's definitely one I'm interested in. And in Champion Bumper, it's fair to say it's a division that's not really captured that much imagination this year. But I'm a little bit puzzled why the vibes have gone a bit quiet on Jasmine DeVoe. Absolutely bolted up on his debut over in Ireland, won by 15 lengths. Not sure the form is all that, but the way he won that day, the bookmakers put him straight into favourite for the Champion Bumper at the time. I think he went into 5-1 in a place, and Willie Mullins said straight away that he booked his Cheltenham ticket, and not really heard anything since. But he's still up there towards the top of the betting. But the way he won that day, I was just really impressed. And if you go back through his point form, he beat a horse of Paul Nicholls called Largy Poet, I think it is, who actually bolted up at Exeter a few weeks ago and was favourite for a race at Kempton last week until he pulled out. So he's got some good point form. Obviously, it's hard to know what the likes of Patrick and that are going to ride. But if he did run, I think he had a little bit of X factor about him that day. And he's a horse, again, that I'll be keeping an eye on. But again, we won't know until he gets declared if he is going to take his chance.
Yeah, who's also going to get the ride on him as well, but Jasmine DeVoe. Yeah, and like I say, it has all gone a little bit quiet in the Champion Bumper as a result. I don't know whether it's because of the Enterprise favourite has come out, or I'm not entirely sure what it is. But Strawfan Jack, though, I like that. I'm going to a Grand Annual quite a lot. Right, that is everything from us for day 2 of the Cheltenham Festival. Big thank you to the lads for all of their hard work, but make sure you stay tuned because day 3 will be coming your way very shortly.